Jon Stewart just went nuclear on live TV, and the Democratic Party? They walked right into the fire. From Bernie's billionaire blunders to Kamala's word salad supreme, Stewart spared no one. He took the DNC's greatest hits and turned them into a roast for the ages. And trust me, it was brutal, but hilarious. This isn't your average political rant. This was prime-time, high-octane truth bombs with a side of comedic carnage. So buckle up, because what you're about to see might just be the most honest moment on television this year. "Screw the billionaires!" he bellows. The crowd erupts, signs wave. The revolution is alive. But wait. Smash cut to Bernie boarding a private jet, sipping coffee from a compostable cup, looking like a Vermont Bond villain. Yep, that really happened. And Jon Stewart? He was locked and loaded. With razor-sharp sarcasm, Stewart dismantled the contradiction. Live on national TV. "You can't yell about billionaires while flying like one," he quipped. And here's where it gets truly delicious. This wasn't just a hypocrisy, it was a pattern. Stewart pointed out how Bernie's campaign, the same one shouting power to the people, had quietly spent over $380,000 on private air travel. That's not just tone-deaf, that's a symphony of self-own. And then in walks Bill Maher, pouring gasoline on the fire. He went after Bernie's progressive logic on student debt forgiveness, citing polls that show a chunk of recipients admitted they'd use that money for vacations, luxury items, and yes, even drugs. Stewart didn't flinch. He leaned in. It's like watching Robin Hood take from the rich and then charter a helicopter to Burning Man. The audience, wheezing. But behind the laughs was something darker, a growing credibility crisis. When the left's loudest voices start walking like the elites they condemn, people notice. And Stewart, a former darling of progressives, is now the one pointing out the emperor's new Gulf Stream. And here's the kicker. It wasn't a cheap shot. It was earned criticism from someone who once stood shoulder to shoulder with the cause. But now, even Stewart sees the cracks. And when satire turns its aim inward, that's when the movement really has a problem. Cue dramatic music, image of ivy-covered Yale buildings fades into a DNC campaign stage. Next up in Jon Stewart's roast of the century, the Democratic Party, mocking people for going to Yale, while surrounded by people who went to Yale. No, seriously, you can't make this up. Picture it. A fiery speaker on stage railing against elitism, rallying the crowd against Ivy League snobs. As the camera pans to the backstage area, where the room looks like a Yale alumni mixer, Stewart didn't just mention it, he surgically spotlighted it. "You can't be anti-elite while sipping your chai in a Harvard mug," he deadpanned. Boom, mic drop. He called out the DNC's most tired charade, the "We're Just Like You" act, rolled out during every election cycle like a greatest hits album nobody asked for. "Down with the elites!" they cry. But their inner circle? Filled with Ivy League lawyers, think tank insiders, and trust fund speechwriters. It's like watching someone trash Whole Foods while sipping on a kale smoothie with a $12 steel straw. And that's the beauty of Stewart's takedown. He wasn't mocking education, he was exposing the performative populism. The way the DNC preaches working-class values while marinating in elite privilege. The message? You can't rage against the system if you are the system. Stewart ripped off the mask and showed what many Americans have already sensed. The everyman act? It's just that, an act. And the result? A party that looks more like a Saturday Night Live skit than a movement for the people. Hypocrisy, meet high definition, and Stewart brought the spotlight. Cue slow zoom on Oprah at the mic. She's delivering one of her signature monologues, but then, the turn. "We just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady," cue record. Scratch. Freeze frame. Wait, what? That word. That delivery. Oprah, the queen of empathy, just weaponized cat lady. And then, the camera panned. Right to her. A middle-aged woman, quiet, seated politely, glasses, modest clothes, not glamorous. But here's the twist. She's real. A retired librarian, no children, rescuer of over a dozen stray cats. Not some stereotype. Not a joke. a real woman, who lives her life with compassion and dignity. And the moment Oprah said the words, her face changed. The room felt it. The nation watching felt it. It wasn't a cute jab. It felt like a sneer, a quick dismissal of someone who didn't fit the polished, curated image of DNC stage aesthetics. Jon Stewart caught it instantly, and boy, did he flip the script. With his signature scalpel-sharp satire, he cut to the real issue. This wasn't just a bad joke. It was elitism in plain sight. Because when saving cats becomes something to mock, you've lost more than the joke. You've lost the room. That librarian? She represents millions of Americans, quiet, kind, community-centered, and often overlooked. Stewart didn't just defend her. He used the moment to expose how some elites in the party have grown disconnected from the very people they claim to champion. Compassion turned into a punchline, empathy replaced by optics, and that's how you don't just lose a crowd. That's how you lose the country. Cue Kamala Harris at the podium, bright lights, polished smile. Growing up, we moved a lot. I remember that big Mayflower truck packed with our things, going from Illinois to Wisconsin. Cut to Jon Stewart, blinking slowly like he's trying to make sense of a scrambled GPS signal. Then came the line that leveled the room. Just say you moved to swing states. Make it up. Boom. The audience erupted. Not because Kamala nailed a moment, but because Stewart called out what everyone was thinking. This isn't storytelling. It's political improv. The vagueness, the randomness, the odd list of states with no emotional thread. It all felt hollow. Stewart didn't need charts or pundits to prove a point. He just held up a mirror, and what reflected back was a speech that sounded more like a GPS rerouting error than a vision for America. And let's not forget, this is the same Kamala Harris who once claimed she listened to Tupac and Snoop Dogg while in college, years before either of them had released a single album. That moment alone became internet legend. And Stewart? He pulled it all together with surgical satire. He didn't just roast her speech. He exposed a pattern of political theater that feels more scripted than sincere, like a broken soundbite machine playing "We Moved a Lot" on loop. And the audience? They weren't just laughing. They were nodding. Because what Stewart highlighted wasn't just about her, it was about trust. When leaders sound like they're reading from a focus group manual, voters tune out. Stewart didn't have to shout. He let the absurdity speak for itself. And when the punchline hit, it wasn't just funny. It was a reality check. Kamala's speech, meant to stir hearts, ended up as the setup to Jon Stewart's sharpest gag of the night. And in that moment, America laughed, not just at her, but at the entire performance-driven machine behind her. Kamala Harris, voice firm, hands gesturing like she's conducting a silent orchestra. A harm against one of us is a harm against all of us. Cut to Jon Stewart, blank stare. He blinks once. Okay, Stalin. Boom. The audience? Gone. Howling. Not because he was mean, because he was right. In a single breath, Kamala went from vice president to varsity-level speech cliché generator. And Stewart? He wasn't just roasting the slogan. He was torching the disconnect. You can't toss out collectivist bumper stickers while presiding over a fractured border, sky-high prices, and record-low approval ratings. The phrase sounded borrowed, plucked from a dusty activist manual and dropped into a moment begging for real leadership. Stewart saw through it. He saw the performance, the scripted tone, the attempt to manufacture unity, while everything else is falling apart. And that's when he went further. He brought receipts, chaos at the southern border, a cost of living crisis spiraling out of control, poll numbers flatlining like a bad EKG. Stewart didn't yell. He didn't even flinch. He just let the line hang. Okay, Stalin. That three-word kill shot didn't just puncture the speech. It shredded the illusion. Because here's the truth. When leadership becomes a collection of vague slogans, people tune out. And when a comedian delivers more truth in 10 seconds than a vice president does in 10 minutes, that's not comedy anymore. That's commentary. And Stewart, with all the precision of a scalpel, reminded us that the emperor's speech has no clothes.